Welcome to Healing the Spirit, a space where we awaken our creativity, deepen our connections, and remember who we are through the lens of astrology, archetypes, and art making. I'm your host, Jonathan Coe. Hello everyone, welcome to Healing the Spirit, welcome to this week's episode. I'm excited to be sharing some of my contemplations and reflections with you on the week of February 26, 2024. As always, I encourage you to listen between the lines, allow the words that I'm sharing, some of my delineations on the astrology and the energy to be a jumping off point, a portal, fodder for inspiration for you to feel into what comes up within you, what comes up within your body, what comes up in your heart, what comes up in your spirit and your intuition as you are listening to this. All right, let's start with the rundown of the astrology. So on Tuesday, February 27th, we have Mars in Aquarius squaring Jupiter in Taurus. On Wednesday, the 28th, we have Mercury, the Sun, and Saturn in a conjunction in Pisces. On Thursday, the 29th, we have Mercury in Pisces sextiling Jupiter in Taurus. And then we have Venus in Aquarius sextiling the North Node in Aries. On Friday, March 1st, we have the Sun in Pisces sextiling Jupiter in Taurus. And then on Sunday, the 3rd, we have Venus in Aquarius squaring Uranus in Taurus. So I would say when I tuned into the energy of the coming week, I was sensing that there are two kind of major plots going on here. So I'm going to talk about them one by one. The first one, to me, has to do with restoring flow. So when I felt into this plot, when I felt into this theme, this process that's happening this coming week, I saw an image of a river. And you know how sometimes rivers kind of has this spot where it like narrows down, right? And this spot that narrows down has been blocked by a rock. And through the persistence of the water, the rock that has been blocking the waterway has been slowly moved inch by inch over time, right? And then at some point, perhaps because of the persistence of that flow, or perhaps because of a surge in the flow of the water, the rock kind of rolled off to the side and then opened up pathway of flow for the water to begin moving in a way that it's supposed to again, or the way that it was before the rock got there. And so this week, it feels like there's something akin to this energetically that's going on. Something that has been in the way of our natural flow is finally rolling off. There may be a sense of relief. There may be a sense of, wait, that's it? All it takes is for this one tiny little rock to finally roll off for all this flow to come through. But mostly for me, it really feels like it's going to be more like an opening, like an energetic relief. And the reason why I'm saying this is because when I looked into Mercury, Sun, and Saturn conjoining, the three of them in Pisces 9 degrees, it feels to me like this sense of relief may be happening in areas of our lives that we've been struggling with for some time, at least for the past year. So, astrologically, the last time Saturn had a conjunction with Mercury, which rules communication, and the Sun, which rules illumination, clarity, happened in Aquarius around February, March last year, 2023. And since Saturn entered Pisces on around March 7th, 2023, depending on where you are in the world, the planet of responsibility, of structure, of boundaries and delineation, Saturn, hasn't met up with Mercury and the Sun yet until this coming week, right? So this is pretty big. This is the first time in a long time that Saturn meets with Mercury and the Sun in the sign of Pisces. So let's first talk about Mercury and the Sun. To me, Mercury and the Sun have a really interesting relationship. They're like I'm trying to come up with some analogies here. They're kind of like the secretary and the CEO, right? If Mercury is the secretary, then the Sun would be the CEO of a company. Or maybe like the court jester and the king. They're like the delivery person and the actor, right? And at first glance, there may be hierarchy here, right? It may seem like one party is maybe more powerful or has more influence than the other. And in some ways, that's true, right? The Sun is the only star in our solar system, and the Sun is literally that which the whole system gravitates around, right? So obviously the Sun does have a little bit more of a power or more of a authority than Mercury, right? In some sense. And also imagine how one would be without the other, right? To go back to some of the analogies that I was using here, if you think about the CEO, they might be missing a bunch of meetings without the secretary, right? The king is probably going to be making some really terrible decisions without the kind of levity and subtle wisdom that the court jester can bring about, right? Through their performance or through their appearance. There's a reason why historically a lot of kings back in the days have court jesters, right? Because they're kind of the only people who can talk to the king, maybe in an indirect way, and can through humor open something up within the king, right? Everybody else is too busy trying to impress the king. And then the other analogy that I had in mind was the actor and the mail worker, right? Like the actor is someone who goes on stage and who is praised or given a lot of accolades and applause, right? But they probably can't go on stage if their costume is not delivered by the male worker, right? One of the requirements of acting is to look your part. So if you don't have your costume, you're probably not going to be able to go on stage, right? You're not going to be able to do your job as well as you would want to. Another example that I'm currently thinking of is Mercury is kind of the air traffic controller, right? And the Sun is the pilot of the plane. This may be a more, a less hierarchical example, right? But there's something about how the pilot, right, similar to the Sun, is the ruler, right, is in charge of making sure that the plane can take off and everybody can get to their destination safely, right? They're the sovereign here, right? But they require the help of the one that kind of brings flow, right? That allows the current to move in an effective, efficient, and sometimes maybe even safe manner, right? Something that we do know about Mercury is in the Greek and Roman mythology, Mercury or Hermes, is able to move from one realm to another without having to pay a price, right? So Mercury can move to Mount Olympus or to the middle world or to the underworld without having to pay a price, right? And so the times when Mercury and the Sun meet together in the sky, it's called the cazimi, right? So Mercury cazimi brings up a lot of inspiration. It brings up fresh ideas, solutions to stale old problems. It brings up this tada moment, right? One word to maybe encapsulate the energy of Mercury cazimi would be epiphany, right? An epiphany is an interesting word because in the modern sense of the word, we think about epiphany as maybe an astrologer or a thinker or someone who's trying to solve a problem having this kind of light bulb going off moment, right? And that's true. And if you look at the etymology of epiphany, the word itself is speaking to more of a sense of something being revealed that has always been true for a while, right? But that maybe hasn't been apparently true or hasn't been considered true by the viewer, right? By the subject. And so this week, Mercury cazimi is happening and it's meeting up with Saturn, right? This is a pretty big occurrence because this doesn't happen very often. Saturn does have downer energy, right? There's no doubt about it. But just because Saturn slows down the energy of the party, right, slows down the speed of things, doesn't mean that Saturn isn't playing a very important role, right? Saturn in Pisces can feel like it brings sobriety, can feel like it forces honesty out of situations that maybe have been too wet, too reverberating with enthusiasm, right? Especially enthusiasm that isn't totally grounded in what is implementable in this 3D reality, right? Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, so there's a lot of up energy, right? Jupiter is the planet of enthusiasm, of hope, of kind of like the God energy is very Jupiterian, right? And so Pisces can get so in love with everything and everyone, forgetting that they need to sleep or eat or that they need solitude and silence, right? Sometimes. And so Saturn has been bringing some realness to this terrain of Pisces, right? So this week, there's space, I think, for Saturn to not just be constantly plowing away, but also to finally see what they've been working towards in Pisces, right? Saturn's really good at kind of getting down and getting to work. But Saturn isn't always an energy that's super great at appreciating or even fully seeing the big picture of what they're trying to accomplish. And so I also pulled a card. And when I pulled this card, my intention is to pull a card to show us something that we can anchor this energy into, right? What is, if this plot line or if this theme is kind of coming up and out for us, what energy can we anchor into? And I pulled the Strength card from the tarot. To me, the Strength card is very much about finding creative manifestation, right? And creativity is expansive. It's not just about traditional art, but simply to create something out of this energy, right? What does this energy want me to create in my life, right? It's maybe a question to ask. I think there's an allowing here to celebrate all the hard work that perhaps you or Saturn has been putting towards the dreams, towards building the world that you are wishing for, towards building the kind of coherence that you long for within areas of your life that feel connected to Pisces, right? And this doesn't mean that the journey is over. This doesn't mean that the work is done, right? But what if for a moment we allow a sense of relief, a sense of having noticed that this little rock in the passageway within the river has been removed, perhaps, and that certain kinds of flow is now able to happen, right? Certain kinds of flow can move through this riverbed. What if it's okay for us to be relieved when certain parts of our journey are over? This is a reminder to celebrate the clarity that you experience or that you can experience, and celebrate the hard work that you've put in. And then there is the second plot line that I also want to talk about. And this plot line feels more fuzzy. It feels also more fussy, right? It's not as clean. It feels like maybe more of the start of something a little bit complicated is kind of how it's feeling to me. And it also feels like it's coming from almost like a different direction, maybe hitting a different area of life, happening in a different neighborhood in your reality compared to the Pisces situationship, right? And this plot line has to do with beliefs, and it has to do with our beliefs of tangible limitations being challenged by necessity, right? This is something we can see with the Mars squaring Jupiter. There's also a story here around how those beliefs may be something that we need to illuminate, something we need to bring into conversations with other people, or that we may need to bring into some sort of energetic exchange, both with forces seen and unseen. This may be something that we need to bring to a trusted friend or practitioner or processor, right? And finally, also the importance of reorienting towards simple and maybe always available pleasures that are that are there for us, right? That isn't not present simply because there's chaos and unpredictability in this moment. So all of this doesn't feel like a conflict to me, right? To be clear, it really feels more like a journey. Like the journey is in the beginning of the week with this Mars squaring Jupiter, right? There's something about how we may have believed something, and now an event occurs, or maybe a person speaks up, or maybe a new piece of information comes in that's rather unexpected, and it shifts us into the direction of maybe doubting our belief, right? And with the connection between Jupiter and Taurus, and Mercury as well as the Sun in Pisces, right, which is a sextile relationship, it feels to me very supportive for us to bring this doubt, to bring this confusion to someone that we can trust, right? That may be an actual person, or maybe it's your guides, right? Or maybe it's a particular deity, or higher forces that you work with, right? Or some kind of force that you work with. Maybe it's nature, right? And allowing even the act of simply verbalizing your mental process. So I'm thinking here of something that happened to me a few weeks ago, where I was working through something, and I went to my altar and I literally spoke it out loud. And at first, right, it kind of feels a little crazy because within my culture, I currently live in the United States, it is not fully encouraged for a person who is quote unquote mentally healthy or sane to be talking to themselves, right? This isn't acceptable behavior. So I felt a little crazy for a few minutes, but then I noticed that as I allow myself to hear my own voice talking about my own problems at my altar, speaking to specifically my ancestors, I started to feel something shifting. And it's not like I suddenly got the solution right away, right? But even in just hearing myself speak some of the things that I haven't been able to put into language for a long time, energetically that opens something up within me, right? So this is kind of what I'm talking about. It may not be that your friend or your partner or your trusted practitioner, it may not be that they have the answers, right? But maybe just in you speaking it out, it brings up a certain soothing of your nervous system activation, right? It shifts your nervous system state into a different level. And ultimately, I think we're really being asked to come back to the present moment, right? Yes, maybe our beliefs are shaken a little bit. Our assumptions maybe were either challenged or our takes on certain situations are shifted or shifting around. But ultimately, we're asked to orient towards the pleasure of being present, right? And maybe even to be in the communion of the greater web of life. And this to me is the story around Venus, right? Venus in Aquarius, sextiling the North Node in Aries and squaring Uranus and Taurus, right? Both of which are related to kind of the North Node and Uranus related to volatile energy a little bit, right? Or kind of hungry, wild energy. So what may be interesting to contemplate here is what's in front of you. And I mean this quite literally. Rather than being so focused on the pressures of getting it right, not making the wrong move, right? What would happen if you begin orienting from a space of what is the situation calling me to do or to be in this present moment? And then trusting that whatever solution or stance that you come up with right now can be implemented in small doses if that's what feels right. Or maybe you don't need to know or see the whole picture, right? You can just be present and take one step forward from that place of being present. It's making me think a lot about something that I consider quite a bit, which is the connection between agency and creativity, right? To me, agency is about remembering that there's oftentimes not just one course of action available to us, right? And creativity is about allowing aliveness to move through us. To be alive is to respond to the present moment, not the past, not the future, right? The present moment as it appears to us now. What would happen if you don't allow too much of what you think you know about your past, right? Some past experiences or some future anxieties to completely color and filter what's in front of you right now, right? Another way to phrase this, to think about this, maybe to ask yourself, what am I missing? What am I missing? What am I not seeing in the situation that's unfolding in front of me right now, right? I'm going to give an example. Maybe a good example is if you think about social media, right? This happens all the time in social media. We see someone posting about something or talking about something, and we make assumptions about their internal reality, which may or may not be true, right? We may think, oh, they're posting about this because XYZ has been happening in their lives, right? But one important thing to consider is we never fully know the reality of another person, right? We never fully know all the different angles that we can know about a particular situation. So that's not to say don't look, right? That's actually to say simply validate your own perspective. What's in front of you? What are you seeing, right? An exercise that I've been doing a lot recently is really being with the process of describing what is unfolding in front of me right now. It's so funny because we jump a lot within the Western capitalist colonial culture and also, academia culture, I would say too. We jump a lot into conclusions. We jump a lot into if this, then that, right? But what if we allow ourselves to really slow down and to be with our observations of what's actually happening, right? What's happening within your body? What's happening in front of you? What do you think? What do you believe? What do you assume to be happening for this person that is maybe triggering you or that maybe is causing you anguish in some type of way? I pulled a card for this plot line as well, and the anchor card that I pulled is the Seven of Cups. There are too many variables at play here. This isn't about coming into some clear conclusions necessarily. This isn't about coming up with a list of things to do or to tackle, but rather it's about getting rooted, but not stuck in the discomfort of the illusion of different perspectives, right? And different options. The Seven of Cups shows up as a reminder that we may be overcomplicating things. When we're afraid, when we feel like our security or safety is threatened, sometimes our psyche doesn't allow us to see the fear. And rather, maybe our brain rushes in with all kinds of questions, all kinds of stories, all kinds of assumptions, right? So a question to ask here may be, what am I afraid of confronting within myself when I allow myself to pick a lane, to make a decision, to go in the direction that my intuition or my heart or my gut is propelling me towards? Recently, someone reminded me of an incredible quote from Marie Forleo, which is that clarity doesn't happen through thinking, but rather happens through action. So I think the same goes here, right? Rather than thinking, which has its place, absolutely. I think that with whatever is coming up, if it's coming up that feels crunchy, that feels like a stuck place, be with the present moment, right? And then let yourself maybe take the next imperfect action, whatever that may be. Because these planets are making crunchy aspects, making crunchy interactions with each other in fixed signs, what may be challenging is not so much coming up with the most wildly creative solutions, right? But rather coming home into the knowing that is already present. All right, that's it by way of contemplation. I hope this is helpful for you. I'm excited to hear how it's going. And if this podcast episode or this podcast in general has been helpful for you, if it's given or contributed something to your life and your reality, I would love to receive your support in rating this podcast, leaving a review is very, very, very helpful, even if your review is only 3 to 4 sentences. Apple Podcast would be the best way to do that, although comments on Spotify are also super helpful and appreciated. And finally, if any of you would like to work with me one-on-one, I have some spots available in March and April. So yeah, reach out, look at my list of current offerings, and I would love to hold space for you and to work with you through whatever is present in your reality at this moment, from the perspective of astrology or divination or energy work. Okay, that's it. I think. Oh, I have one more announcement. So, next week's Friday, which is March 8th, I'm going to be teaching a guest workshop at Kelsey Rose Tortorici's container. It's going to be on Venus in Aquarius. It's called Visionary of Love, and I'm very excited about it. We're going to be exploring some of the ways that we express love that's really unique to us, and we're going to give ourselves a little validation around that. I think that this is something that it seems to me conceptually very basic and very simple, right? But I have found that in the process and in the exercise of really giving myself space to do this and to even do it in community is not only helpful but really deeply illuminating. And something that I've been thinking about a lot is how our relationships and our quality of life in general is deeply improved when we're able to communicate honestly with the people around us, with partners, with family members, with members of our community, right? And so part of coming into deeper honesty with the people around us is to come into deeper self-knowledge, right? The more we know ourselves, the more we know what matters to us and how we express what matters to us, the more we can experience love. Not just as an interpersonal force, but as kind of a collective force, right? And the more we experience love, the less we can be at war with ourselves and with one another, which is literally what is needed in this world, right? Okay, I think that's it for me. I would love to see you there. All the links will be in the show notes below for you to check out the workshop, the readings. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this has been helpful. I hope that the time that you spend with this particular episode will be nourishing to you and will give back as you walk your path throughout the week. I'm sending you so much love and such deep gratitude for co-creating the space with me. All right. Thank you so much. I will see you soon. Take care. Thank you.